Recently, the United Nations released a report detailing the terrible torture that happens in some of the prison camps in North Korea, and they interviewed a number of people, including Kim Kwang-Il. He is a person who actually spent 6 years in one of those prison camps. Now, Amnesty International in the UK did interview him, and we have a video where he details what he went through. And then after that, we're going to show you some photos or some pictures that he drew that shows you the type of torture that he went through. I want to note that the next video is really graphic, very hard to listen to, but it is important to watch just so you know how horrible the conditions are in North Korea.
일단 굶어 죽은 사람들은 제가 공공장소에서 시체들이 쌓여 있는 거는 시신들은 여러 번 봤고요. 그냥 10분도 안 돼서 다 배설돼서 나오거든요. 그러다가 이렇게 3도 일정한 단계를 지나게 되면 벌써 홍문이 열릴 때는 그냥 아무리 먹여도 소용이 없어요. 그 사람은 건지지 못하거든요. 그러면 홍문이 열려서 한 일주일 정도 지나면 그다음에 이렇게 몸에 붓기가 쭉 오는 거예요. 몸에 붓기가 쭉 오면 이 사람의 땅구멍으로 찐머리, 붓기가 완전 아예 탱탱하게 붓기가 오고 그다음에 이게 찐물이 쫙 배에서 나와.
The atrocities of the North Korean regime are unparalleled. And, you know, look, I know what's happening in Syria with the torture and the murders there is unbelievable, right? They're in the middle of a civil war. Bashar Assad is a terrible dictator, etc. These guys in North Korea have been doing it for decades on end. There is no civil war because they crush every piece of opposition that they have. They treat their own people like animals. These are as bad at concentration camps as we've seen, you know, period, because it's not like they're just quote unquote imprisoning or torturing people, they're also killing them, right? And so after the torture, they kill them. Political prisoners, you know, even the slightest crimes or non-crimes, you get put into these concentration camps. There's hundreds of thousands of people in them. It's grotesque.
So when the United Nations was doing this investigation and this report on what's happening in North Korea, they spoke to him and they had him draw some pictures of what he saw in those prison camps. So we want to share some of those photos with you guys. In one of the illustrations, Mr. Kim explained that he had to crawl on his hands and knees into the cell he shared with 40 other prisoners because the entrance door was only about 80 centimeters high. The guards told him that when you get to this prison, you are not human, you are just animals, and as soon as you get to this prison, you have to crawl just like animals.
Yeah, and in so many of the pictures, people are obviously malnourished because, I mean, the whole country's malnourished, let alone the people in the camp. And then there's the hangings.
Yes. So in the next graphic, it shows that the state has used food as a means of control over the population. The state has also used deliberate starvation as a means of control and punishment if in detention facilities. This has resulted in the deaths of many people in the prisons, many prisoners, political and ordinary. So then the next one, you kind of see just how malnourished they are. They're eating rats and snakes and whatever they can get their hands on because of how malnourished they are. In the next illustration, you see that the prisoners were brought to the prison camps in train wagons originally meant to carry animals.
This is gross
I know.
in so many ways.
And they just get worse. Decisions, actions, and omissions by the state and its leadership caused the death of at least hundreds of thousands of people and inflicted permanent physical and psychological injuries on those who survived. You just see people dying around you. So in this picture, he talks about how they were forced to pose in certain positions for a very, very long period of time, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't hold it. And if they couldn't hold it, you know, they would obviously get in trouble for it. And they were just forced to do this again and again.
And it'll drive you crazy, too, other than being physically impossible.
Of course. And then this next one is really difficult to think about. They will tie them up like that for a very long period of time. Your hands are bound. Your hands are bound back, and if they tie you like this, your chest comes forward, and in this position, you are tortured.
They call this the pigeon torture. So, like I've said before, if we ever get inside these camps and free the people inside, you know, the whole world will say, oh, I can't believe it was happening, and who knew it was this bad? We know it right now. We know it for a fact. But we just want to turn our eyes from it because We think it's too hard to solve. There's nothing we can do. We don't want to spend the time, the energy, the resources. And in this case, unfortunately for those North Koreans, they have no oil under their ground. So the U.S. is not coming. We're not going to be coming to help. And look, as I've said before, it doesn't mean the right answer is war or invasion or liberation through violence, etc. Okay? But should there be every pressure in the world economically to China, who's enabling this, and to North Korea itself? Absolutely. You should do whatever it takes. And by the way, in another story, we showed you how the North Korean leadership is importing over $600 million in luxury goods, cognac, caviar, Mercedes-Benz, etc., as they do this to their own people. No one should ever sell those goods to the North Korean leadership. I mean, that's so obvious. It's at a bare minimum. You know, Kim Jong Un was told by his father and his grandfather that they're chosen by God and they're special people, and that they're worthy of everything, and everybody else is an animal that they have every right in the world to abuse. You look, we got to get rid of those guys, you know. And again, I don't mean necessarily through war or anything like that, but there has to be some action taken, and then as much economic action as you could possibly bring to bear, because you can't say never again and full well know that this is happening right now. You just can't say never again, because it's happening again.